The humid air clung to every man on the deck of the USS Enterprise, heavy with the metallic scent of salt and oil. The Pacific stretched endlessly, a gray-green expanse that reflected the tension gripping the sailors and Marines alike. Somewhere to the east, Okinawa lay like a jagged shadow on the horizon, shrouded in morning mist. Corporal Hayes tightened the straps on his helmet and adjusted his pack. His fingers trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of anticipation. Around him, Marines checked weapons, double-checked maps, whispered last-minute instructions. Each man carried the same thought. What waited on that island would test them beyond anything they had trained for. "Hey, Hayes," Lopez said quietly beside him, the barrel of his rifle glinting in the weak sunlight. "You ever get used to this feeling?" Hayes shook his head, eyes fixed on the misty silhouette of the island. "Nope. Doesn't matter how many drills you do. You just hope you make it through the first hour." From the horizon came the faint drumming of American destroyers exchanging signals and the distant, echoing booms of naval artillery. Anti-aircraft guns clicked and hummed as technicians calibrated them for the expected Japanese air response. Somewhere above, corsairs roared into formation, slicing through clouds like steel knives. The Japanese defenders, hidden in cave networks and dense jungle ridges, prepared quietly for the landing. Lieutenant Maeda moved among his men, inspecting rifles, oiling bayonets, whispering words of encouragement. Their faces were stoic, but the tension was there, hidden beneath layers of discipline and expectation. "They will come soon," he said softly, "and we must be ready for every step." A young soldier shivered, holding his rifle close. "Sir, do they really know what we're capable of?" Maeda's gaze swept the ridge outside the cave mouth, where the palms swayed in the morning breeze, masking shadows beneath them. "They will learn soon enough," he said, "but it will not be easy for either side. Prepare yourselves, not just to fight, but to survive the day." At dawn, the American landing craft sliced through the water, engines growling, guns loaded, Marines crouched and tense. The first wave approached the shore, waves breaking violently against the hull. The soldiers' faces reflected determination, fear, and the faint flicker of hope. Hayes gritted his teeth. "Steady. Remember your training. Focus." A sudden flare lit the horizon, Japanese artillery registering the first movement. The boom of guns split the morning air, spraying shells into the approaching landing crafts. Water hissed as bombs struck nearby, sending geysers of spray into the air. Marines fell, clinging desperately to edges, as the first shock of battle washed over the beach. "Incoming! Take cover!" a voice shouted, drowned almost immediately by the roar of explosions. Hayes ducked behind a crate, blood running down his arm from a grazing shrapnel wound. The smell of cordite and salt water burned his nostrils. Around him, men fired blindly, bullets carving trenches into sand and debris. Above, corsairs banked sharply, firing into camouflaged Japanese positions on the cliffs. Smoke rose in the jungle, hiding silhouettes that vanished before the Marines could target them. Somewhere, a masked figure slipped silently along a ridge, placing a small explosive near a supply cache, then melting into the shadows. Lopez yelled, "Corporal, over here. We need to flank left." Hayes nodded, signaling with a hand. "Move fast, stay low, and watch the tree lean." They advanced across the beach, mud and water soaking boots, bullets snapping past like angry hornets. Every step was a gamble. Every rise of sand revealed the deadly eyes of a hidden enemy. The hidden clan, silent and ghost-like, observed from high in the cliffs. Their mission: sabotage, infiltration, and the weakening of morale. They moved without sound, a blur among the trees, planting explosives and cutting communications with precision. One masked figure paused, watching Hayes' squad advance. A quick hand gesture, and another explosive charge detonated near an ammo box, sending debris flying toward the Marines. The sudden blast threw Hayes to the ground, mud splashing over his face. "Get up!" he shouted through grit and smoke, grabbing Lopez and pulling to cover. We pushed through, no hesitation. Above, naval artillery continued its relentless barrage, sending shock waves across the shore. The island seemed alive with fire, smoke, and the cries of men fighting for survival. Every Marine, Every Japanese soldier, every member of the hidden clan felt the weight of history pressing down upon them in those first harrowing hours. As the morning wore on, the island became a battlefield of chaos and courage, a crucible where strategy, fear, and instinct collided. And through it all, the hidden clan moved unseen, shaping the course of the fight with silence and precision, reminding every soldier that in war, the deadliest threats are often those you cannot see. Hayes wiped blood from his cheek, scanned the trillion, and whispered under his breath, "Stay alive. Just stay alive." The war had truly begun. The morning sun broke weakly through heavy clouds, casting long, murky shadows across the shell-cratered beach. The roar of the ocean mingled with the constant thump of artillery, the shrill whistle of incoming shells, and the sharp crack of rifles. Every man on the beach moved as if time had slowed, careful, deliberate, yet haunted by fear. Hayes crouched behind a splintered landing crate, mud and seawater clinging to his uniform. Around him, Marines pressed forward, firing, shouting, and ducking, each breath heavy with adrenaline. "Keep moving," he barked to Lopez, who staggered beside him, clutching his rifle with white-knuckled intensity. "We push for that ridge, no matter what." From the cliffs above, Japanese soldiers fired down from camouflage positions, their rifles cutting through the early morning mist. The hidden clan, massed silent, unseen, slipped among the trees and rocks, planting charges and cutting communication lines, their movements almost imperceptible to the chaos below. A sudden explosion near the supply tent sent sand, debris, and fire into the air. Hayes dove, dragging a wounded Marine to cover. The smell of burning canvas and cordite filled his nostrils. "Corporal," Lopez panted, "they're everywhere. How do we fight what we can't see?" Hayes gritted his teeth, eyes scanning for movement. Adapt, survive, and keep moving. Above, corsairs roared across the sky, strafing enemy positions on the cliffs. Their guns tore through the foliage, spraying bullets and shrapnel. Tracers streaked the mist, lighting the battlefield in sudden bursts of brilliance. But the Japanese positions were prepared, fortified, and relentless. Every advance was met with ferocity and precision. Lieutenant Maeda led his men along a narrow ravine behind the ridge. His unit had been sent to coordinate with the hidden clan, exploiting gaps and weakening the American advance. The mud sucked at their boots. The humidity weighed on their bodies. Yet every step brought them closer to the ridge. "They think the beach is the main line," Maeda whispered. "They do not see us coming. Our advantage lies in silence and surprise." A masked member of the hidden clan nodded and gestured toward the northern slope. Small, timed charges were set along key supply points and artillery positions. Within minutes, explosions erupted in a chain reaction, sending shock waves of Marine formations. Hayes dove into a crater, the ground shaking beneath him. "They're cutting our supplies," he shouted. "Get back. Hold the line." Marines scrambled to reposition, firing blindly at shadows and smoke. The enemy seemed to melt into the terrain, striking from multiple angles simultaneously. Hayes realized with grim clarity that this was no ordinary battle. They were fighting against discipline, training, and an enemy that was almost ghost-like. From the air, Foster's Corsairs swooped low over the ridge, guns blazing, strafing Japanese infantry. The roar of the engine and the sound of bullets gave the Marines hope. "We're not alone," Hayes yelled, rallying his squad. But the hidden clan adapted instantly. Figures darted between explosions, moving behind the ridge and planting new charges near radios and ammunition. Hayes saw one masked figure slip into the ruins of the forward command post. "Corporal," Lopez shouted, pointing. "They're inside." Hayes turned, rifle raised, but the figure vanished as silently as it appeared, leaving only the echo of its presence and the faintest trail of smoke. Maeda's forces reached the upper ravine, catching sight of the disarrayed Marines. "Push forward," he ordered, signaling his men to advance in disciplined, calculated formation. Every step brought the battle closer to the ridge, closer to a decisive clash. Hayes and his squad fought with every ounce of strength, bayonets flashing, rifles firing, shouting for survival amidst the chaos. Marines fell, some screaming, others silent, swallowed by mud, smoke, or fire. The ridge became a crucible, testing courage and endurance with every second. Foster returned for another strafing pass, weaving between anti-aircraft fire. His cannons ripped through enemy positions, giving the Americans fleeting moments of control. Yet the hidden clan sabotage continued unabated, the sound of small explosions echoing like ghostly reminders of the enemy's presence. Hayes ducked behind a destroyed bunker, reloading quickly. "We hold this ridge," he yelled. "No retreat. We survive and we fight." Lopez glanced at him, rain and sweat running into his eyes. "Do you really think anyone survives this?" Hayes didn't answer. He aimed, fired, and waited for the next shadow to move. Survival was the only answer that mattered now. The day pressed on, the ridge contested with relentless intensity. Artillery boomed, Corsair strafed, grenades exploded, and bullets shredded the air. Every advance was bought with blood. Every breath was a gamble. And through it all, the hidden clan moved unseen, shaping the battle with silent, lethal precision, leaving the Marines to fight against an enemy that seemed to exist in every shadow and vanish with every smoke plume. By midday, both sides were exhausted, drenched, and battered. Marines clung to their positions, some wounded, some dead, but none willing to yield. Japanese infantry regrouped under Maeda's command, their coordination sharpened by the hidden clan sabotage and reconnaissance. Hayes looked over the ridge, taking in the devastation. Fires burned, the air was thick with smoke and mud, and the sounds of battle echoed endlessly. "Keep going," he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. "Survive and keep going." The battle had only just begun, and the price of every inch of ground was about to be measured in courage, blood, and sacrifice. The late afternoon sun struggled to pierce through thick clouds, casting the battlefield in gray and shadowed hues. Smoke from burning bunkers and exploded supply crates mingled with a humid scent of mud and blood, filling every inhalation with the unmistakable weight of war. The ridge, once a line of tentative hope, had become a fractured zone of desperate struggle. Hayes crawled across a muddy trench, rifle raised, scanning the tree-line. Marines around him were weary, some limping, others frozen in shock, eyes wide from witnessing comrades fall in the chaos of morning assaults. Each second felt like an eternity. "Corporal," Lopez hissed, dragging a wounded Marine behind cover. "We can't hold them much longer." Hayes scanned the northern slope. Small movements, almost imperceptible, betrayed the presence of the hidden clan. Masked figures slipped between trees, melted into shadows, and appeared moments later to set small explosives against ammo crates and communications equipment. "They're ghosts," Hayes muttered, gritting his teeth. But ghosts with a plan. From the sky, Corsairs roared in low passes, cannon fire tearing through enemy positions. Bullets whistled past Hayes' head, some striking the earth with explosive precision. The air was a symphony of war, engines screaming, shells exploding, rifles cracking, and men shouting for survival. Below the ridge, Maeda's soldiers advanced through dense undergrowth, rifles raised, faces grim. The hidden clan moved with them, signaling silently, clearing paths, sabotaging wherever American firepower might slow their progress. Every movement was deliberate, every pause a study in patience. "Steady," Maeda whispered to his men. "Every step brings victory. Silence is our weapon." A sudden explosion rocked the ridge. Hayes was thrown to the ground, mud splattering across his face. He coughed, vision blurred by smoke. When he looked up, another masked figure had disappeared into the tree-line, leaving devastation in its wake. Lopez's voice came from behind him, tense. "They're everywhere, Corporal. How we fight them?" Hayes pulled himself to his knees, scanning the ridge. "We don't fight them the way we fight normal soldiers. We survive, and we strike when we can." Gunfire erupted from multiple directions. Marines scrambled to reposition, trying to hold the southern approach. Hayes fired at fleeting shadows, bullets striking trees, rocks, and mud as the hidden clan struck silently from cover. From the air, Foster's Corsair dove again, engines screaming, guns ripping through enemy lines. The sound of cannon fire offered hope, but Hayes knew the enemy adapted quickly. Each attack by the air support only forced the hidden clan to shift, to vanish, to strike elsewhere. Suddenly, a series of explosions tore through the ridge's supply points. Marines cried out as ammo dumps ignited. Hayes grabbed Lopez, pulling him to safety behind a destroyed bunker. "They're cutting our lifeline." Hayes shouted over the roar. "We have to push forward." Across the ridge, the Japanese infantry moved with methodical precision. Maeda's unit took advantage of chaos created by the hidden clan, flanking Marines and cutting off escape routes. Hayes watched helplessly as groups of men were separated, pinned, and forced back. He gritted his teeth and charged forward, dragging wounded Marines toward a small defensive trench. "Stay alive," he yelled. "Move. Every step counts." Rain began to fall, turning mud into slick, treacherous terrain. Every movement required effort, every step a gamble. The hidden clan seemed almost to blend into the storm, appearing and vanishing as if the rain itself were shielding them. In one brief, terrifying moment, Hayes saw a masked figure crawl toward a partially destroyed radio post. He fired a shot, narrowly missing, but the figure disappeared into smoke and mist. Seconds later, an explosion rocked the area, severing communications and spreading fire. Lopez looked at him, voice trembling. "Corporal, we can't hold them all." "Not like this." Hayes wiped blood from his cheek, eyes scanning the ridge. "Then we hold what we can. Survive, fight, and wait for reinforcements. That's all we can do." From the ravine below, Maeda signaled his men forward. The Japanese infantry surged, exploiting gaps in the Marine lines. The hidden clan continued their silent strikes, moving unseen but lethal, ensuring that every American advance came at the highest cost. Foster swooped low again, strafing the ridge. The Corsairs roared a beacon of hope amidst devastation. Bullets tore through trees and dirt, scattering enemy soldiers, yet the masked infiltrators were already repositioning, ghost-like. Hayes reloaded quickly, scanning every shadow. Sweat, rain, and blood dripped into his eyes, but he did not falter. Survival was not just about firing at the enemy. It was about endurance, strategy, and faith in the men beside him. By nightfall, the ridge was a fractured, smoking line of trenches, debris, and wounded men. Marines clung to the high ground, battered but unbroken. Japanese forces regrouped below, their advance slowed but far from halted. The hidden clan had struck decisively, demonstrating that war was not just about force. It was about fear, precision, and the unseen hand that could tip any battle. Hayes sat against a crater wall, rifle resting across his knees. His breath came ragged, eyes scanning the shadows for movement. Somewhere in the smoke and mist, the hidden clan watched, planning their next strike. "Tomorrow," he whispered, voice barely audible, "we survive tomorrow." The first day of the ridge had ended, but the war and the cost of facing ghosts was only beginning. Night fell like a shroud over the ridge, thick clouds blotting out the moon and stars. The battlefield, once a chaotic mess of fire, smoke, and bullets, had settled into a tense, uneasy silence. The only sounds were the distant crash of waves against Okinawa's jagged coastline, the occasional echo of artillery far inland, and the soft shuffle of boots through mud. Hayes crouched behind a shattered bunker, rifle in hand, listening. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a branch set his nerves taut. Around him, Marines whispered softly, tending to wounds or trying to catch a few minutes of uneasy rest. The day's casualties weighed heavily, each man silently counting the cost of survival. Lopez leaned against the crater wall, bandaging a minor wound on his arm. I can't believe we made it through the day," Corporal, he muttered, voice shaking. They're everywhere. Invisible." Hayes exhaled slowly, eyes scanning the darkened tree-line. "Invisible, yes, but not invincible. We've survived this far, haven't we?" A faint shadow moved in the distance, just beyond the remnants of the destroyed supply tents. Hayes tensed, following it with his eyes. A masked figure slipped silently among the fallen trees, planting a small explosive before vanishing again. The hidden clan had already begun their night operations, exploiting the Marines' exhaustion and disrupted lines. "They never rest," Hayes muttered under his breath. From the cliffs above, Japanese infantry quietly repositioned, moving under the cover of darkness. Maeda coordinated their movements with precise hand signals, ensuring that every step was calculated, every path cleared by the hidden clan sabotage. Every Marine patrol was a potential trap, Every shadow could conceal an enemy poised to strike. Suddenly, a muffled explosion shook the ridge, followed by scattered gunfire. Hayes dove into a nearby crater, mud and debris raining down around him. Marines scrambled to respond, but the darkness and smoke made aiming nearly impossible. "We have to hold this line," Hayes shouted, adrenaline cutting through fatigue. "Every position matters. Don't let them break us." Lopez's voice quavered. "Corporal, they're striking from the rear." Hayes twisted, catching glimpses of masked figures slipping among the wreckage. Small charges detonated near ammunition and radios, creating chaos and cutting off communication with the command post. The hidden clan moved like shadows, untraceable and lethal, striking where the Marines least expected. Above, a lone Corsair appeared, its engine roaring, the aircraft diving low to strafe enemy positions. Tracer fire streaked the air, illuminating the tree line in brief flashes. Hayes fired toward the flashes, trying to suppress the enemy while keeping an eye on the movement of the masked figures. The rain began to fall, light at first, then heavier, turning mud into a treacherous mess. Every movement became a challenge. Slipping could mean death, and standing exposed even for a second could be fatal. Yet Marines pushed forward, crawling, ducking, firing, holding positions that could no longer be defended conventionally. A sudden series of explosions tore through the northern trench, sending a shockwave that threw Hayes against the wall of a crater. He coughed, choking on smoke and rainwater. When he looked up, Marines were regrouping, repositioning, determined to maintain the line. The hidden clan had struck decisively, but they had not yet broken the ridge entirely. Maeda's men moved quietly through the underbrush, coordinating attacks with precision. Every ambush, every charge set by the hidden clan weakened the American advance, forcing Hayes' men to fight not just soldiers, but shadows, strategy, and unpredictability. Hours passed in tense, brutal silence, punctuated by sudden eruptions of violence. A grenade here, a sniper shot there, a muffled scream echoing through the mud. Marines huddled together, exhausted but alive, learning to anticipate the unseen threats. Every second of vigilance was a battle of its own. Hayes wiped blood from his face, eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of dawn. "We survived tonight, and then we fight again tomorrow," he whispered, voice firm despite weariness. Lopez nodded, his hand shaking as he loaded his rifle. "We've come this far, maybe we can hold them back." Somewhere in the darkness, the hidden clan watched and waited, silent shadows against the rain-soaked battlefield. They had struck, they had disrupted, but the Marines had endured. The night had tested courage, resilience, and the will to survive, and in that crucible, both sides measured the human cost of war. As the first faint light of dawn began to brush the horizon, Hayes looked over the ridge, taking in the destruction, the wounded, the fallen. The battle was far from over, but one truth remained clear. Survival was only possible through courage, endurance, and unrelenting vigilance. Dawn arrived in muted gray, filtering weakly through clouds heavy with rain and smoke. The ridge was a chaotic mosaic of shattered bunkers, cratered earth, and the fallen Marines and Japanese soldiers alike strewn among debris and mud. The stench of gunpowder, blood, and wet earth hung thick in the air. Hayes pushed himself upright, muscles stiff and sore. Around him, the surviving Marines clung to whatever cover they could find, eyes darting nervously to the tree line, where shadows moved with eerie precision. The hidden clan had not rested. In the dim light, masked figures slipped silently among the wreckage, planting small explosives and cutting communication lines, striking like ghosts without warning. "Corporal, the northern trench is gone," Lopez shouted, his voice hoarse. Those damn shadows, they've been there again." Hayes scanned the ridge, rifle at the ready. Smoke rose in thin spirals from smoldering bunkers, and somewhere ahead, a faint flicker betrayed another explosive charge. The enemy's presence was almost imperceptible, yet every movement told a story of precision and lethal intent. "They're not just soldiers," Hayes muttered under his breath. "They're hunting us." From above, Corsairs roared low across the ridge, machine guns blazing, sweeping Japanese positions on the cliffs. The air trembled with the sound of engines and gunfire. Marines followed up with rifle fire and grenades, trying to suppress enemy advances. But the hidden clan's infiltrations had created chaos. Ammo was destroyed, communication lines severed, and supply routes cut. Every advance was met with confusion and danger. Across the ridge, Maeda coordinated his men with hand signals, moving silently among his troops. Each step was deliberate, every movement calculated. The hidden clan flitted between trees and ruins, a force within a force, striking unpredictably to sow fear and disorder. Hayes grabbed Lopez by the shoulder, pointing toward a smoking trench. "We can't hold that position. We need to fall back, regroup, and strike where they least expect it." Lopez hesitated, glancing at the ruined defenses. "And if they're already waiting? If every step is a trap?" Hayes' jaw tightened. "Then we survive the first trap, then the next, one step at a time. That's all we have." A sudden explosion rocked the central bunker, sending a spray of mud and with shards into the air. Marines ducked instinctively, firing blindly toward the smoke. Hayes leaped to the edge of a crater, scanning for movement. There, a masked figure darted between ruins, disappearing just as quickly as it had appeared, leaving only fire and panic in its wake. "Everyone, hold your positions," Hayes shouted. "Suppress fire until we regroup." The battle escalated as Maeda's soldiers pressed forward from the ravine, taking advantage of gaps created by the hidden clan's night raids. The ridge became a theater of chaos. Hand-to-hand combat in shattered trenches, grenades tossed into smoking craters, and Marines fighting through exhaustion and despair. Above, Foster swooped low once more, strafing enemy positions with precision. The roar of the Corsair's engines and the streak of tracers across the smoke-filled air offered hope, yet Hayes knew the real danger was not just a visible enemy, but the invisible one, the hidden clan moving unseen among trees, rocks, and ruins. Hayes fired at fleeting shadows, heart pounding, lungs burning, mud and blood clinging to his uniform. Every shot felt like a gamble. Every movement could trigger an ambush. Yet he and the Marines pressed on, determined to hold what they could. Hours passed in relentless intensity. Rain fell harder, turning the battlefield into a mire of mud and blood. Marines slipped, fell, and scrambled to regain footing, firing at shadows that might not even exist. Explosions from sabotaged ammo dumps rocked the ridge, sending shockwaves through the exhausted soldiers. By midday, the ridge was fractured but not lost. Marines clung to the high ground, wounded but unbroken. The hidden clan, ever patient, melted back into the jungle, waiting for the next opportunity to strike. Maeda's infantry regrouped, their advance slowed but relentless, a reminder that the ridge would not be easily held. Hayes crouched against a splintered bunker, surveying the devastation. The cost was clear. Every inch had been bought with courage and blood. Around him, Marines tended to the wounded, buried the fallen, and readied themselves for what was coming next. Lopez leaned close. "Do you think we can make it, Corporal?" Hayes looked toward the horizon, gray and storm-swept. "We survived today, and we fight again tomorrow. That's all we can promise." The sun broke briefly through clouds, illuminating the ridge in pale light, a brief moment of clarity amid the storm. Survival had become both a strategy and a prayer, and the battle for the ridge, shaped by courage, strategy, and shadows, was far from over. The afternoon haze settled over the ridge, mingling smoke, rain, and the metallic scent of blood. Marines crouched behind shattered bunkers and cratered earth, exhausted, mud-soaked, yet still holding positions inch by inch. Every sound, rifle crack, distant shell, even the subtle rustle of leaves, set nerves on edge. The hidden clan, patient and unseen, moved among the shadows, striking with precision that left the Marines unsure where the next attack would come from. Hayes wiped sweat and rain from his brow, scanning the tree line. "They never stop," he muttered, gripping his rifle tighter. Around him, Lopez and the remaining Marines struggled to reload, some nursing wounds, others trembling from the relentless pressure. A muffled explosion rocked a nearby bunker, throwing dirt and debris across the trench. Marines scrambled to cover, firing at fleeting shadows, but the masked infiltrators vanished as quickly as they appeared. "Corporal," Lopez shouted, pointing to the northern slope. "They're moving again. How do we stop them?" Hayes' jaw tightened. "We don't fight them the way we fight ordinary soldiers. We adapt. Survive, strike when we can, and hold the line. From above, corsairs dove in tight formations, strafing the ridge with machine guns. The air vibrated with the roar of engines and the staccato crack of bullets. Tracer fire streaked across the battlefield, illuminating fleeting movements in the smoke. But the hidden clan was undeterred. They had already repositioned, exploiting every blind spot the Marines left. Maeda's infantry advanced cautiously from the ravine, coordinated and disciplined. Every step was calculated, every movement precise. They avoided direct engagement where possible, relying on the hidden clan to create confusion, sabotage, and fear. Explosions rocked supply points and communication lines, cutting off Marines from support and forcing them into improvised offensive positions. Hayes grabbed Lopez by the shoulder, voice low but urgent. "We hold what we can. Reinforcements will come, but until then we fight with what we have." Lopez nodded, eyes wide and tense. "I don't know how much longer we can last." Before Hayes could answer, a masked figure darted across a fallen bunker, placing a small charge near a box of grenades. Hayes fired instinctively, the shot hitting only air as the figure melted into shadows. Seconds later, an explosion erupted, sending fire and debris across the ridge. Fall back to the next trench." Hayes yelled. Marines scrambled through mud and water, slipping, falling, rising, firing at the unseen enemy while trying to regroup. Above the ridge, Foster Corsair made another pass, strafing Japanese positions with deadly precision. Marines used a brief distraction to reposition and cover wounded comrades, but the hidden clan had anticipated the pattern, striking new points of vulnerability as soon as the planes pulled away. Hours dragged on. Rain fell steadily, turning the battlefield into a mire that slowed every movement. Marines fought with exhaustion clawing at their limbs, their eyes bloodshot, their minds stretched to the breaking point. Every shadow could hide death. Every rustle could be an ambush. Hayes crouched behind a wall of sandbags, chest heaving. "We've survived this long. That counts for something." Lopez looked at the ridge, smoke curling from bunkers and craters. Survival, barely. A sudden explosion erupted behind the ridge, jolting Hayes and sending dirt into his eyes. Another masked figure slipped through the smoke, striking at a command post. Hayes fired, but it vanished, leaving chaos in its wake. Maeda signaled his men to regroup, moving them silently to exploit the confusion. The hidden clan continued to weave through the battlefield, strikes surgical and unseen, shaping the Marines' advance without direct confrontation. By nightfall, the ridge was a fractured, smoking line of trenches, battered but not conquered. Marines clung to the high ground, wounded, weary, yet still alive. The hidden clan retreated into the jungle shadows, leaving destruction and psychological terror in their wake. Hayes wiped blood and mud from his face, scanning the horizon as night approached. "We survived tonight, and tomorrow we fight again." Lopez nodded, voice trembling, "And hope we're still standing." The ridge lay scarred, the cost of each step clear in the mud, blood, and shattered earth. Survival was measured not just in holding ground, but in enduring the relentless pressure of an invisible enemy that struck fear and chaos into every moment. The battle continued, not just for the ridge, but for every heartbeat, every breath, every inch of life. The pre-dawn mist clung to the ridge, thick and suffocating, blending smoke, rain, and the faint tang of gunpowder into a suffocating haze. The Marines huddled in their shattered trenches, every nerve taut, every muscle aching from exhaustion. Silence ruled, but it was a kind of silence that screamed the anticipation of the next strike, the waiting for death to arrive unseen. Hayes crouched behind a crumbling bunker, rifle across his knees, eyes scanning the tree-line. The hidden clan had not rested. Figures moved silently among the shadows, disappearing and reappearing, placing explosives, cutting communication lines, and exploiting every weakness the Marines had managed to hold. Lopez shivered beside him, wrapping his arms around himself. How? How do we fight something we can't see, Corporal? Hayes didn't answer immediately. He watched a masked figure slip between fallen trees, disappear, then reemerge near a sandbag position. "We survive," He said finally, voice low but firm, "We strike when we can, and we hold every inch we can." A muffled explosion rocked the southern trench, throwing dirt and debris into the air. Marines scrambled to return fire, but the enemy was gone, silent, ghost-like, leaving only destruction behind. From the sky, Corsairs roared low, engines screaming, strafing Japanese positions with deadly accuracy. Tracer fire lit up the ridge in brief, blinding bursts. Hayes fired in response, bullets striking trees, mud, and debris, hoping to suppress attacks, though the hidden clan moved too swiftly to hit. Across the ridge, Maeda's infantry advanced methodically, coordinating with hand signals and precise movements. Each step was deliberate, every advance exploiting the chaos caused by the hidden clan sabotage. Explosions shattered ammo dumps and bunkers, cutting off communication lines and isolating pockets of Marines. Hayes grabbed Lopez by the shoulder, pulling him low into the mud. "We can't hold everything, but we can hold what matters. Stick close, cover each other, survive until reinforcements arrive." Lopez nodded, voice trembling. I don't know how much more I can take." Hayes' eyes scanned the horizon. The ridge was a battlefield of ghosts and shadows, a deadly dance between visible and invisible forces. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a branch, every faint movement could herald death. Suddenly, an explosion tore through a northern bunker, throwing sand, mud, and shattered wood into the air. Marines shouted, firing blindly, as a masked figure darted past, placing another charge and vanishing like smoke. Hayes fired again, heart pounding, but there was nothing to aim at, only the echo of destruction. Foster's Corsair swooped low once more, diving over the ridge, engines screaming, cannon fire ripping through enemy positions. The roar above was a fleeting promise of support, but Hayes knew the hidden clan had anticipated it, exploiting the brief distraction to strike in places the Marines could not defend. Hours passed in relentless tension. Rain fell, soaking men to the bone, mud clinging to boots and hands, making every movement a battle in itself. Marines fired, reloaded, and moved, their bodies aching, their spirits fraying, but their determination unbroken. Every shadow could hide death, every sound to be the last. Hayes crouched behind a wall of mud and splintered wood, scanning for any movement. Around him, the ridge was scarred with smoke, fire, and devastation. Wounded Marines whispered prayers, tried to tend each other, and held on to life with sheer will. Lopez leaned close. Do you think anyone makes it through this?" Hayes tightened his grip on his rifle, eyes fixed on the misty horizon. "We survive. That's all we can do. And tomorrow we fight again." Somewhere in the darkness, the hidden clan watched, silent, lethal, calculating. They had struck, disrupted, and instilled fear, but the Marines had endured. The ridge remained battered and scarred, a testament to courage, endurance, and the human cost of war. As the first faint light of dawn began to touch the battlefield, Hayes exhaled, mud and blood streaked across his face. The battle was far from over, but one truth remained. In the shadows of war, survival and vigilance were as important as bullets and strategy. The ridge waited, silent but alive, for the next wave of courage, sacrifice, and blood. The first true light of dawn revealed the ridge in stark clarity, a landscape carved by war, muddy craters, shattered bunkers, smoldering trees, and the twisted remnants of supply carts scattered across the terrain. Marines moved cautiously, every step measured, boots sinking into the wet, churned up earth. Exhaustion hung like a weight on their shoulders, but survival demanded vigilance. Hayes scanned the ridge behind a partially destroyed sandbag wall, eyes tracing the tree-line. The hidden clan had been relentless, their silent strikes leaving the Marines off balance and constantly guessing. Figures appeared like phantoms among smoke and debris, moving with precision, sabotaging ammo and cutting off supply lines. Lopez, rubbing a stiff shoulder, whispered beside him, "Do they ever rest, Corporal? Or are they always out there waiting?" Hayes' jaw tightened. "They move like shadows, yes, but they're still human. And humans can be outsmarted. Focus, watch, survive." A muffled explosion echoed from the northern trench, sending mud and debris into the air. Marines scrambled for cover. returning fire at fleeting silhouettes, but the enemy disappeared before a clear target could be acquired. The hidden clan's expertise in infiltration was obvious. Each movement calculated, each strike precise. Above, Corsairs roared again, diving low to strafe Japanese positions. Tracers streaked through the smoke, illuminating figures for brief moments before they vanished into shadows. Hayes fired at the flashes, bullets striking mud, foliage, and debris, hoping to disrupt enemy positions while trying to protect the remaining Marines. Maeda's infantry advanced carefully from the ravine below, silent but deadly, each movement coordinated to exploit the chaos created by the hidden clan's sabotage. Explosions rocked supply points and destroyed communication lines, forcing the Marines to operate in small, isolated units. Every inch of ground gained or lost came at an extraordinary cost. Hayes grabbed Lopez's arm, pulling him behind a crater wall. "We can't hold everything," he said firmly, voice steady despite the tension. "We take what we can, fight where we must, and survive until reinforcements arrive." Lopez swallowed hard, eyes scanning the tree-line. "And if reinforcements don't come in time?" Hayes didn't answer immediately. He focused on a masked figure moving swiftly between the ruins of a bunker, placing a small charge. Seconds later, the explosion erupted, sending smoke and debris across the ridge. "Then we survive with what we've got," he said finally. The battle intensified as the morning wore on. Marines scrambled through mud and smoke, firing at shadows, tending to the wounded, and trying to maintain any semblance of order. Hayes moved from trench to trench, coordinating positions, offering encouragement, and keeping morale from breaking entirely under the relentless pressure. From above, Foster Corsairs swooped low again, engines roaring, cannon fire shredding enemy lines. For a moment, Marines felt hope, their spirits lifted by the familiar hum of engines overhead. But the hidden clan adapted quickly, repositioning to exploit new vulnerabilities. By mid-morning, the ridge had become a chaotic battlefield of ghostly attacks, strategic strikes, and desperate resistance. Hayes crouched against a crater wall, chest heaving, scanning every shadow, every movement. The hidden clan struck with surgical precision, but the Marines endured, learning to anticipate, react, and survive against an almost invisible enemy. Lopez leaned close, voice trembling. How long can we last like this?" Hayes' gaze remained fixed on the tree-line. "As long as it takes. Every second we survive, every inch we hold, it counts. And one day, they'll make a mistake. Until then, we fight and endure." The ridge lay battered, scarred, and alive with the silent tension of unseen threats. The war had become as much about endurance and vigilance as it was about bullets and explosions. Survival was now the currency of victory, and the hidden clan shadows loomed over every heartbeat, testing courage, resolve, and human will. The next wave was coming, Hayes knew, and the Marines would have to meet it, not just with firepower, but with unwavering determination to survive. The sun climbed higher, burning to the lingering mist and smoke, revealing the full scale of the devastation. The ridge was a chaotic tapestry of mud, shattered bunkers, and scattered corpses, both American and Japanese. Fires smoldered in ruined supply points, sending black smoke twisting into the sky. Marines moved cautiously, rifles ready, every step weighed with exhaustion and vigilance. Hayes crouched behind a crumbled sandbag wall, surveying the battlefield. The hidden clan had struck again before dawn, leaving small charges and sabotage in their wake. Every trench, every bunker, every pathway was a potential trap. The enemy was not only persistent, they were patient, cunning, and invisible. Lopez, still pale from exhaustion, and mud streaked across his face, whispered, I can't believe how they move, Corporal. It's like they vanish into the mist." Hayes' gaze followed a shadow slipping between the remains of a bunker. "They're precise, but they're human. That's the difference. Humans make mistakes." A muffled explosion to the east rattled the ridge, sending dirt and debris into the air. Marines returned fire blindly, aiming at shapes and shadows that disappeared before impact. Hayes ducked low, heart pounding, mud coating his uniform, sweat and rain running into his eyes. From above, Corsairs screamed through the sky, engines roaring as their guns shredded enemy positions. The brief burst of tracer fire illuminated masked figures for moments, but the hidden clan slipped between the flashes, exploiting every distraction to strike elsewhere. Maeda's infantry pressed forward from the ravine, disciplined and silent, every movement coordinated to complement the hidden clan's sabotage, every step measured to maintain advantage and sow confusion. Explosions rocked the ridge, ammo dumps and communications destroyed, forcing Marines to adapt on the fly. Hayes grabbed Lopez by the shoulder, lowering him behind a crater wall. "We can't defend everything," he said firmly. "We survive where we must, fight where we can, and hold the line until help arrives." Lopez's voice quivered. "And if help doesn't come in time?" Hayes' jaw tightened. "Then we survive with what we've got. We hold on to life, one breath at a time." Suddenly, another explosion tore through the central trench, scattering debris and fire. A masked figure darted past, placing a charge near the remnant of a bunker before vanishing into the trees. Hayes fired blindly, but the enemy was gone. The ridge had become a battlefield of ghosts and shadows, the clash of strategy, endurance, and sheer human will. Marines scrambled through mud and water, firing at fleeting silhouettes, dragging wounded comrades, and holding positions that seemed impossible to maintain. Foster's Corsair swooped low again, engines screaming as cannons tore through enemy positions. For a brief moment, Marines felt hope, but the hidden clan adapted instantly, exploiting the momentary distraction to strike unseen. Hours passed in tense, brutal silence punctuated by explosions and gunfire. Rain fell intermittently, soaking men and mud alike, turning every movement into a struggle. Every shadow could hide death. Every sound could signal an ambush. By afternoon, the ridge was scarred, battered, yet still held. Marines huddled behind makeshift defenses, tending to the wounded and preparing for the inevitable next strike. Hayes crouched, surveying the chaos, chest heaving. The hidden clan had struck decisively, but the Marines endured, their resilience a testament to human courage and perseverance. Lopez whispered, voice trembling, Do you think we'll make it?" Hayes' eyes remained fixed on the horizon, gray with smoke and cloud. "We survive. That's all we can do. And one day, this ridge, this fight, it will belong to us. Until then, we endure." The ridge remained alive, scarred and waiting, a crucible of courage, endurance, and sacrifice, where every heartbeat was a battle and every breath a victory. The afternoon sun sank low behind thick clouds, casting long shadows across the scarred ridge. Muddy craters, broken bunkers, and smoldering debris painted a grim picture of the relentless struggle. Marines moved cautiously, their uniforms plastered with mud, their faces streaked with blood and sweat, rifles ready for anything. Hayes crouched behind a collapsed bunker, eyes scanning the tree line. The hidden clan had struck again during the night, their sabotage precise, invisible, and unnerving. Every path, every trench, every shattered piece of earth to conceal a deadly threat. Lopez, clutching a bleeding arm, whispered beside him, "Corporal, they're everywhere. How do we even fight something we can't see?" Hayes' gaze followed a masked figure slipping between ruined sandbags. "We survive," he said firmly. "We strike when we can, and we hold every inch that matters. Focus. Watch. Live." A distant explosion shook the ridge, sending mud and debris into the air. Marines fired blindly at shadows, while masked figures vanished into smoke and ruin. Hayes ducked low, heart pounding, breath ragged, mud clinging to his soaked uniform. Above, Corsairs screamed through the sky, engines roaring as their guns tore through enemy positions. The flashes of tracer fire revealed glimpses of movement, but the hidden clan adapted instantly, exploiting every opening to strike elsewhere. From below, Maeda's infantry advanced cautiously, disciplined and silent, exploiting every gap created by the hidden clan. Explosions rocked the ridge, supply points, ammo caches, and communication lines destroyed, forcing the Marines to improvise at every turn. Hayes grabbed Lopez by the shoulder, pulling him down behind a crater wall. "We can't hold everything," he said. "We survive where we must, strike where we can, and keep the line intact until help arrives." Lopez's voice shook. "And if help doesn't come?" Hayes didn't flinch. "Then we survive with what we've got. Every second counts. Every breath counts. Every step forward counts. Another explosion tore through the northern trench, scattering debris and fire. Hayes fired at a fleeting shadow, but the masked figure vanished as if swallowed by the smoke. Marines scrambled to regroup, dragging wounded comrades, firing at shadows, holding positions that seemed impossible. The hidden clan moved like ghosts through the battlefield, striking strategically, melting into the smoke and exploiting every distraction. Hayes knew survival wasn't just about bullets. It was about patience, vigilance, and anticipation. Foster's Corsair made another pass overhead, strafing enemy positions with precision. The roar of engines and cannon fire offered a momentary boost of morale, but the hidden clan had already adapted, shifting to new positions to strike the Marines in unexpected ways. Hours dragged on in relentless intensity. Rain began again, soaking the battlefield and turning mud into treacherous traps. Every movement became a struggle. Every sound could signal death. Marines fired, reloaded, tended the wounded, and held their ground, exhaustion etched into every line of their bodies. By dusk, the ridge remained scarred but intact. Marines huddled behind fractured defenses, silently acknowledging their survival. Hayes wiped mud and blood from his face, eyes scanning the tree line, aware that the hidden clan still lurked in shadows, ready to strike again. Lopez whispered, voice trembling, "Do you think we'll make it through the night?" Hayes looked at the horizon, gray with smoke and clouds. "We survived tonight, and tomorrow we fight again. That's all we can promise." The ridge, battered but unbroken, stood as a testament to endurance, courage, and a human would survive amidst shadows, chaos, and relentless war. Night settled over the ridge like a heavy, suffocating blanket. Smoke curled from smoldering bunkers, mingling with the mist rising from mud-churned craters. The Marines huddled in shattered trenches, exhaustion etched into every face, rifles clutched tightly, eyes scanning the tree line for the slightest movement. The hidden clan had spent the day sowing chaos, and Hayes knew the night would be no reprieve. Lopez, teeth chattering, leaned against a crater wall. "Corporal, how do we survive the night when we can't see them coming?" Hayes' gaze swept across the ridge, dark shadows shifting in the mist. "We survive," he replied, voice firm. "We listen, we move, we watch, and we strike when we must. They may be shadows, but we're still alive. That counts for something." Suddenly, a muffled explosion echoed from a northern trench. Marines ducked instinctively, mud and debris flying through the air. Shadows flitted among the wreckage, masked figures moving like ghosts, planting charges and sabotaging the remaining supplies. Hayes fired into the darkness, heart pounding, but the enemy melted away as quickly as it had appeared. From above, Corsairs roared past, the engines a brief, thrilling promise of support. Tracer fire cut through the smoke, illuminating fleeting glimpses of movement. But the hidden clan vanished before Marines could engage. Hayes watched, noting the patterns, calculating, anticipating. Survival required not just firepower, but patience and vigilance. Maeda's infantry advanced quietly from the ravine, coordinated, exploiting the chaos caused by their hidden clan allies. Explosions rocked the ridge, severing communications and isolating groups of Marines. Every movement had to be deliberate. Every decision, a gamble with lives on the line. Hayes grabbed Lopez's arm, pulling him low into a crater. "We can't hold everything," he said. "We survive where we must. We strike when we can. And we hold the line until dawn. That's our mission tonight." Lopez swallowed hard. "And if we don't," Hayes' jaw tightened, "then we survive as long as we can. Every second is a victory. Every breath is proof we're still here." The night stretched on, punctuated by distant explosions, muffled cries, and a quiet shuffle of footsteps across mud and debris. Marines crawled through trenches, firing at shadows, tending to wounded, and keeping a constant vigil. The hidden clan struck silently, surgically, always unseen, leaving chaos in their wake. Hours passed. Rain fell lightly, soaking men and mud alike, making every movement treacherous. Hayes moved from position to position, coordinating defenses, encouraging the Marines, and keeping morale from breaking entirely under the relentless pressure. By the first hints of pre-dawn light, The ridge was battered but intact. Marines were weary, wounded, and haunted by what they had seen, but they had endured. The hidden clan had tested their limits, but they had not broken the line. Hayes wiped mud and blood from his face, glancing toward the horizon. We survived tonight, and tomorrow we fight again. Lopez nodded, voice trembling but resolute. And we'll be ready. The ridge lay scarred, smoke curling into the dim light. Yet it remained a testament to endurance, courage, and the relentless human will survive in the face of shadows, chaos, and war. Dawn broke slowly over the ridge, pale light filtering through heavy clouds, illuminating the full scale of destruction. Muddy craters, splintered bunkers, and blackened earth told the story of relentless battle. Marines moved cautiously, every step measured, boots sinking into the soaked ground. The exhaustion was visible on every face, but their resolve remained unbroken. Hayes crouched behind a fractured bunker, scanning the tree line. The hidden clan had left subtle traps during the night. Small charges, sabotage ammunition, and strategic obstructions, forcing Marines to remain on constant alert. Each rustle of leaves, each snap of a branch could mean an ambush. Lopez, bandaging a deep cut along his forearm, whispered, "Corporal, it feels like they're everywhere. How do we even fight them?" Hayes' eyes followed a shadow moving between shattered ruins. "We fight smart. We survive, adapt, and strike when we can. Shadows may move quickly, but they make mistakes too." A distant explosion rattled the ridge, sending mud and debris flying. Marines opened fire blindly at fleeting shapes, but the massed figures disappeared into the smoke and ruins before anyone could land a solid shot. Hayes ducked low, heart racing, mud and rain mixing with blood on his uniform. Above, Corsairs dived low, engines screaming as their machine guns shredded enemy positions. Flashes of tracer fire revealed movement, but the hidden clan had anticipated the attack, striking in other directions, exploiting every moment of distraction. Maeda's infantry advanced silently from the ravine below, precise and coordinated. Each movement was calculated to complement the hidden clan's sabotage. Explosions rocked the ridge, cutting supply lines and communication, leaving small groups of Marines isolated and forced to improvise their defense. Hayes grabbed Lopez by the shoulder, pulling him behind Crater. "We can't hold everything," he said. "We survive where we must, strike when we can, and hold a line until reinforcements arrive." Lopez's voice trembled. "And if help doesn't come?" Hayes' jaw tightened. "Then we survive with what we've got. Every second, every breath, every step counts." Another explosion erupted nearby, throwing debris into the air. Marines scrambled to cover, firing at shadows that moved like smoke. Hayes fired his rifle, but the enemy vanished, leaving only chaos behind. The ridge had become a battlefield of ghosts and shadows, strategy and endurance intertwined. Marines crawled through mud and rain, dragging the wounded, firing at fleeting targets, and holding positions that seemed impossible to maintain. Foster's Corsair made another pass overhead, engines roaring, guns cutting swaths through enemy lines. For a fleeting moment, the Marines felt hope, but the hidden clan had already adapted, exploiting the distraction to strike in unexpected areas. By mid-morning, the ridge was battered, scarred, yet still held. Marines tended the wounded, regrouped, and maintained vigilance against the invisible enemy. Hayes crouched low, scanning the horizon, aware that the hidden clan was still watching, waiting for the next opportunity to strike. Lopez whispered, voice hoarse, "Do you think we'll get through this?" Hayes looked toward the smoke-filled horizon, gray and relentless. "We survive. That's all we can promise. And every inch we hold, every breath we take, it's proof we're still here. That's victory enough for now." The ridge lay scarred but alive, a testament to courage, endurance, and a human will survive against shadows, chaos, and war. The afternoon sun struggled to pierce the thick clouds over the ridge, casting a dim, gray light across the battlefield. Mud-churned trenches, shattered bunkers, and smoldering debris marked every step of the relentless fight. Marines moved cautiously, every step measured, rifles poised, senses strained by exhaustion and the constant threat of invisible enemies. Hayes crouched behind a splintered wall, eyes scanning the tree line for movement. The hidden clan had struck again during the night, leaving small explosive traps and sabotage positions. Every rustle of leaves, every faint shadow, could conceal a deadly enemy. Lopez, bloodied and shivering, leaned against the crater wall. "Corporal, I can't even see them. How do we fight something that moves like smoke?" Hayes' gaze followed a masked figure darting between destroyed bunkers. "We survive. That's the first rule. Watch, adapt, and strike when we have a chance. Even shadows can make mistakes." A muffled explosion rocked the ridge, sending dirt and debris into the air. Marines scrambled to return fire, aiming at fleeting silhouettes, but the enemy vanished before they could be hit. Hayes ducked low, heart hammering, mud and rain mixing with blood on his face. Above, Corsairs roared, engines screaming as their cannons tore through enemy positions. Tracer fire briefly illuminated mass figures, but the hidden clan moved like ghosts, exploiting every distraction to strike elsewhere. From the ravine, Maeda's infantry advanced, silent and methodical, coordinating with the hidden clan's sabotage. Explosions rocked supply points and communication lines, forcing small Marine units to act independently. Every step forward was a battle against not just enemy fire, but the terrain, exhaustion, and fear. Hayes pulled Lopez behind the crater. "We can't defend everything. Survive where we must, fight where we can, and hold the line. That's our mission." Lopez swallowed hard. "And if we don't make it?" Hayes' jaw tightened. "Then we survive as long as we can. Every second is a victory, every breath proof that we're still here." Another explosion tore through a nearby trench, throwing fire and debris into the air. Marines returned fire, dragging wounded comrades into cover. The hidden clan moved with surgical precision, striking quickly and vanishing before retaliation could reach them. The ridge became a battlefield of shadows and endurance. Marines crawled through mud, fired at fleeting shapes, tended to the wounded, and maintained positions that seemed impossible to hold. Survival depended as much on vigilance and adaptability as on bullets and firepower. Foster Corsair swooped low again, engines roaring, guns tearing through enemy lines. Marines took heart from the familiar roar, but the hidden clan had already shifted positions, striking in unpredictable ways. By evening, the ridge remained battered but unbroken. Marines huddled behind mud walls and splintered bunkers, tending wounds and preparing for the next inevitable wave. Hayes surveyed the scarred landscape, aware that the hidden clan's shadows still lingered in the treeline, waiting for their next opportunity. Lopez whispered, voice trembling, "Do you think we'll survive the night?" Hayes looked toward the horizon, gray with smoke and clouds. "We survive tonight, and tomorrow we fight again. That's all we can promise." The ridge lay scarred, smoke curling into the dim light, yet it remained a testament to endurance, courage, and a relentless human will survive amidst chaos, shadows, and war. The morning light struggled to the low-hanging clouds, illuminating the ridge in muted grays and browns. Mud, blood, and smoke clung to every surface, turning the battlefield into a treacherous landscape of shattered bunkers, cratered trenches, and smoldering debris. Marines moved cautiously, senses on high alert, each step weighed down by exhaustion and the ever-present fear of the unseen enemy. Hayes crouched behind a collapsed wall, rifle ready, eyes sweeping the treeline. The hidden clan had struck again during the night, planting small explosive charges and cutting communication lines. Each movement through the rubble could trigger another deadly trap. Lopez, mud-streaked and bleeding, leaned against a crater wall. "Corporal, it's like they're everywhere. I can't even see them." Hayes' gaze tracked a masked figure moving silently between broken bunkers. "We survive first," he said, voice low but firm. "Watch, adapt, and strike when we can. Even shadows make mistakes." A sudden explosion to the east shook the ridge, throwing dirt and debris into the air. Marines fired fleeting silhouettes, but the masked figures vanished before anyone could land a solid shot. Hayes ducked low, heart pounding, mud and rain mixing with blood on his uniform. Above, Corsairs roared across the sky, diving low and firing upon enemy positions. Tracer fire illuminated fleeting glimpses of movement. But the hidden clan melted into shadows, exploiting every distraction to strike elsewhere. From a ravine, Maeda's infantry advanced silently, coordinated, precise. They struck where the hidden clan had created openings, detonating small charges and sowing confusion. Explosions shattered supply points, cutting off small Marine units, forcing them to improvise and defend isolated positions. Hayes pulled Lopez behind a crater wall. "We can't hold everything," he said. "We survive where we must, strike where we can, and hold the line until reinforcements arrive." Lopez's voice quavered. "And if they don't?" Hayes' jaw tightened. "Then we survive as best we can. Every breath, every second, every step forward. It counts. That's all survival is sometimes." Another explosion erupted nearby, sending mud and fire into the air. Marines scrambled, returning fire, while dragging wounded comrades into cover. The hidden clan moved like ghosts, striking fast, precise, and disappearing without a trace. The ridge had become a crucible of endurance. Marines crawled through mud and smoke, firing at shadows, tending to the wounded, and holding positions that seemed impossible to maintain. Survival was not just about firepower. It was about vigilance, adaptation, and unwavering resolve. Foster's Corsair swooped low again, engines screaming, guns tearing through enemy positions. The roar of the aircraft offered a momentary boost of hope, but the hidden clan had already shifted to new positions, ready to exploit every opportunity. By late afternoon, the ridge remained battered, scarred, yet intact. Marines huddled behind makeshift defenses, tending wounds and preparing for the inevitable next strike. Hayes surveyed the battlefield, knowing the hidden clan shadows still lingered, waiting for the next opportunity to challenge every ounce of courage the Marines possessed. Lopez whispered, voice trembling, "Do you think we'll survive this?" Hayes looked toward the horizon, gray with smoke and cloud. "We survive. That's all we can promise. And every inch we hold, every breath we take, proves that we are still here. That is enough for now." The ridge stood scarred but alive, a testament to human courage, endurance, and a relentless will to survive against shadows, chaos, and war. Night fell over the ridge like a heavy, oppressive curtain. Smoke from smoldering bunkers curled into the dark sky, and the distant sound of gunfire echoed faintly through the mist. The battlefield was silent in pockets, but every Marine knew the hidden clan could strike at any moment. Exhaustion weighed on every soldier, yet survival demanded vigilance. Hayes crouched behind a shattered wall, eyes scanning the tree-line. The hidden clan had been relentless for days, testing patience, endurance, and nerves. They moved like ghosts, striking precisely and disappearing before retaliation could reach them. Every rustle of leaves, every whisper of movement could be fatal. Lopez, mud and blood streaked across his face, leaned close. "Corporal, how do we keep going like this?" Hayes' jaw tightened. "One step at a time. One breath at a time. Focus, watch, survive. That's all any of us can do." Suddenly, a muffled explosion erupted near the eastern trench, throwing dirt and debris into the air. Marines returned fire blindly, aiming at fleeting silhouettes. But the enemy vanished like smoke. Hayes fired into the shadows, chest heaving, adrenaline sharp in his veins. Above, Corsair screamed to the night sky, engines roaring as they strafed Japanese positions. Tracer fire illuminated fleeting movements, giving the Marines a brief sense of hope. But the hidden clan had already anticipated the airstrike, shifting to new positions to strike where the Marines were weakest. Maeda's infantry advanced quietly from the ravine, disciplined and precise. Every step exploited openings created by the hidden clan, detonating charges and spreading confusion among the Marines' ranks. Explosions tore through supply points and communication lines, isolating small groups and forcing improvisation under deadly pressure. Hayes grabbed Lopez by the arm, pulling him down behind a crater wall. "We can't defend everything," he said firmly. "Survive where we must. Strike when we can. Hold the line until help comes. That's the mission." Lopez's voice trembled. "And if it doesn't?" Hayes' gaze never wavered from shadows. "Then we survive with what we've got. Every heartbeat, every breath, every inch we hold. It's victory. Even survival is a triumph here." Another explosion shook the ridge, mud and fire flying through the air. Marines scrambled to return fire, dragging wounded comrades to safety. The hidden clan struck with precision, slipping between smoke and debris. leaving chaos in their wake. Hours passed in tense silence, punctuated by sporadic explosions and gunfire. Marines crawled through mud and water, firing at fleeting figures, tending the wounded, and holding positions that seemed impossible. The ridge had become a crucible of endurance, patience, and relentless human will. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, the ridge lay scarred, smoke still curling from smoldering bunkers, but the Marines had endured. Hayes looked over the battlefield, chest heaving, eyes heavy with fatigue. The hidden clan had tested every limit, but the Marines had survived. Lopez whispered, voice hoarse, "We made it. We're still here." Hayes nodded, voice low but resolute. "We survive. That's what counts. And every life we saved, every inch we held, every breath we took, it matters. Courage isn't in winning every battle. It's in standing, surviving, and continuing to fight when all seems lost." The ridge, battered and scarred, stood as a testament to human courage, endurance, and sacrifice. In the shadows of war, amidst chaos and destruction, the Marines had proven that even against invisible enemies and overwhelming odds, the human spirit could endure, adapt, and survive. The hidden clan had vanished into jungle, their legend growing, but the ridge remained, alive with the memory of every brave soul who had stood and fought. And in that survival, there was hope, proof that even in the darkest hours, courage and perseverance could withstand the shadows of war.